Good evening. Great to see you all here tonight. I know we got a few things going on campus, but I appreciate you all being here with us. And tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. It's not that crazy, but we're going to be in the Word and we're going to be talking about the Word. So what we're going to start out with tonight is I want to hear from you guys about the Word. What is something that you've read recently that was really encouraging or challenging, something good in the Word in the last week or so, something fresh? Don't reach back into the old crusty bread. Give us something fresh and new and good. All right? So I'll give you a moment to look. Think about that. I know sometimes you come to a group like this, I don't know where everyone's at spiritually, but I know, especially my first semester at Northwest, well, my second semester, my first semester of Walking with God, if I had been in a room like this and they said, you know, we want you to share a Bible verse, that's where you like, don't make eye contact. So I know maybe some of you aren't comfortable with that, but I hope you can be encouraged by one another tonight. And if nothing else, I'm going to call on a few of you. So if you're in leadership, you better be ready. Okay, I'm only going to call on those people. So somebody, what do you got?
1 John chapter 1, verse 9 and 10.
Tell us about it. What about it there, Paul?
It was encouraging. I don't remember what it said, but I liked it. Find it.
1 John 9 might have something to do with if we confess our sins.
Yeah, if we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. If we say that we have not sinned, we make Him a liar, and His word is not in us.
Boom. That's a good verse. 2 verses, yeah. Yeah, if we say we have not sinned, we make Him out to be a liar, and His word has no place in us. That's good, Paul. Thanks. Somebody else. We made eye contact for a moment there, Maddie. You got something?
Sure.
Better.
Alright, so I've been reading through Exodus, and a couple of verses I really enjoyed were, okay, 2 stories. First story is when Moses is watching over his people fighting against...
They're fighting the Amalekites? I don't remember for sure.
Yeah.
Down the valley?
I think so, yes. And he's just getting very weary because he is like holding his arms out like this, and if he lets his arms fall down, then like they start losing. And so like he's got to keep his arms up. But the cool thing is like his friends come around him and like start holding his arms up and they find a stone for him to sit on. And I don't know, that's just been really cool to think about. Like, yes, your friends need to help your arms stay up, but they also got a rock for him to sit on, and that's Christ. And like, if we are to sit on a rock, that's way more stable than like our friends' arms even. But like, it's awesome that we have community like this also. And then the other one is just like they're exiting out of Egypt, and they're wiping the blood on the doorposts, and I don't know, it's just cool because like the Spirit saw the blood and He passed over them, and that's also really cool for a lot to what Jesus sees in us, and thank goodness He doesn't see what's inside the house, He just sees the blood because that's all that really matters.
Yeah, Paul writes, that's good stuff. That's very good stuff. Paul writes that Jesus is our Passover lamb. He's been sacrificed. And so, yeah, so the angel of death passed over them, and they were spared. They received mercy because they had faith in the blood of the Lamb. That's good stuff. Exodus is good. Thanks, Maddie. Somebody else before I call on you. Jeremiah.
The last portion of Luke chapter 10 is the story of Mary and Martha. Jesus goes to their house. Martha is busy with trying to clean the house, make food, have everything perfect for the guests. But Mary spends the whole time sitting at Jesus' feet. And when Martha asks to get help from Mary, it says, the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion which will not be taken away from her. I know, especially for me, with college starting back up and getting into a regular schedule, it's really easy to feel like Martha and be so concerned with a whole bunch of details that don't really matter. And so it's a really good reminder that there's really only one thing that matters, and it's always worth it.
Absolutely. Something I find really challenging about that verse, that story, she wasn't just doing random stuff. Like, she was doing stuff for Jesus. But her doing stuff for Jesus kept her from spending time with Jesus. I feel like that is a Ministry 101 pitfall right there. We get so busy trying to do other stuff that we don't just sit at Jesus' feet. That's good. Thanks, Jeremiah. Somebody else? Maybe one or two more. Yeah, Ozzy.
I was reading 1 Samuel today, and chapter 16, there's just so much good stuff in there, in the selection of David. And in the first verse, the Lord speaks to Samuel, and he's telling him that I have selected a king for myself among all of Jesse's sons. And so Samuel goes to Jesse, and later on, in verse 11, just prior to this, he's going through the selection of sons, and none of them are the one that the Lord selected. And he goes to Jesse, and he asks, are these all the children? And essentially, what Jesse was doing, he picked the 7 that he thought the Lord would want to choose from. But a lot of times we think that our decision, the ones we pick out, the Lord's going to select one from. That's not always the Lord's decision. When we find out there's one missing, the next verse is, yet the youngest, there remains just one. He's the youngest, and behold, he is tending the sheep. So he wasn't even involved in the selection. And a lot of times we like to make our own decisions and put into a pile all the choices that we think that God is selecting for us. And come to find out God's decision is way over here, and that completely redirects our path. And so I think the whole chapter of chapter 16 is really eye-opening to some of the choices we make in life, and that we may think we're choosing the best thing for us, but God has something else planned for us.
Good word, Ozzy. Thanks, man. I think something else kind of in the same story, and that's so funny. Is this what it's a all the sons you have? Like, wow, bummer. But when we think about David, and you keep reading, and you get into some of David's great exploits, this is the very next chapter, David and Goliath, you get into these awesome stories of David. And of course, I know not all of David's stories is great, but we still think of David as this great, awesome, mighty man of God overall. And to think that when it came time to pick the king, they didn't even invite him. And so we think of what David was, but we forget where he started, and that he was a nobody, and he was an overlooked. And if you ever feel like that, you're in good company. I'm pretty sure, I think maybe it was Martin Luther who said, as long as we're nobody, God can really do something out of us. As soon as we start to think that we're somebody, everything falls apart. Anybody else? One more. I see you back there in the back row.
Yeah, so Colossians 1:15 through 23, it's really jam-packed, and it's basically just says a lot about Jesus. It says he's the image of the invisible God. It says all things were created through him and for him, and everything he might be present. And just kind of the first half of that, it really talks about, all of history has been building up to Jesus. And because of Jesus, we see God. And because of Jesus, we have salvation and we're delivered from death. And it just kind of it was really I've heard all those things, but in Colossians, it does a really good job of hitting how important, how everything was for Jesus and for God's glory and for us and our salvation. And I don't know, I'm reading through the Old Testament right now, and it's just all the Old Testament is building up towards this one climax. And we get to be part of that climax and what that climax was for. And so, I don't know. When I read it, I just thought how I'm so used to Jesus being a Christian for a period of time. I just kind of it falls on deaf ears sometimes when I hear Jesus loves you, Jesus died for you, all that kind of stuff. And so that really kind of just was very refreshing, and seeing how great Jesus was.
Yeah, for a while, Colossians was my favorite book of the New Testament, really first favorite book of the Bible, because it presents this cosmic picture of Jesus, that all things were created by him, and all things were before him, and he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. This is good stuff. I mean, it's not just a little baby that was born. I mean, he's the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. He's the creator of all things. He sustains all things by the power of his word. So, good stuff, good stuff. Well, we could go on for a long time. I know that we could, and that would be a lot of fun, and really we should. Not right now, But in other times when we're together, we should be digging into the Word, we should be sharing the Word with one another. And tonight, that's what I want to talk to you guys about. I want to talk to you guys about God's Word. And we've been studying through Romans in our life groups. I can neither confirm nor deny that Spencer's life group is the best life group.
It is.
But I can tell you that being in a life group will radically help you grow in Christ. I think it's the best decision that you can make, apart from giving your life to Christ. But in terms of what should I do with my time, getting connected to a life group. And we've been studying through Romans this year in our life groups, and eventually we will get to Romans chapter 12. Maybe 4 or 5, 6 weeks from now, you guys will be in Romans chapter 12. And so this is just like a little primer for that. But we've been going for a while in Romans, and we've been seeing the incredible mercy and grace of God. And you know what? Hey, we're just going to go. This will be a. Don't look at your watches, okay? I did that. Don't do that. No, but because we've been in Romans, I'm curious. The very first thing we're going to see here, what Paul says in Romans 12, 1 and 2, which are also really great memory verses. These are some of the first verses I ever memorized. Paul says, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies living sacrifice. So Romans chapter 12 begins with this idea that what we do is in response to what God has done. And so, briefly, the original Twitter, 140 characters. What are some things that you've learned in Romans about the mercy of God, what God has done through Christ for you? Got something? We locked eyes, man.
I don't know, more in Romans, by far the best book in the New Testament. And it paints a picture throughout the entire book of how powerful it was what Christ did for us and how meaningful it actually is. And the more you write that on your heart, the more you want to share that with other people, the more important it becomes to your own life. And you just learn to revolve your life around that entire aspect, and it just makes it so much easier to share that stuff with other people.
Sean, what was it you just said the other day, yesterday, that was the biggest thing you gotten out of Romans so far?
That I'm given a choice to sin, and I can say no, or I can say yes, and that my flesh isn't in control of my things.
Yeah, we're no longer slaves to sin. We don't have to do that anymore. Anybody else? Something that's really jumped out at you in our time through Romans this year? Yeah.
Our life group talks about a lot like the little diagram of like the greater than sign, like when we realize how great God is and how simple we are, the cross fills the gap, and the cross continues to get bigger. I think that's been personally my biggest takeaway thus far.
No, that's good stuff. It's probably good that I didn't come up with that because I can brag on that drawing and how great it is. I love the cross chart where the cross keeps getting bigger. And then you can draw it on the napkin, so you can use that anywhere. I don't have that on this PowerPoint. Anybody else want to share something? Because we've been going for a while. I mean, Paul talks, the first 3 chapters of Romans are all about the sinfulness of man, and then he begins to talk about what God has done and how he's set us free, he's justified us, and we get into some of these big words of propitiation. God's wrath is satisfied. We get into redemption, that he bought us with his own blood, that we belong to him. Paul gets into these things about you don't have to sin because it doesn't benefit you. You don't have to sin because it's not your master anymore. You don't have to sin because what does that life produce anyway? It produces death. But now you can offer yourself to the Spirit. Because the Spirit of God dwells in you, you can live a holy life. There's so many things that while we were yet his enemies, Christ died for us. And so there's all these great things that we learn about the gospel in Romans. And so here in Romans 12, 1 and 2, what we do is a response to that. So let's go ahead and read these 2 verses together tonight. It says, therefore I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And in some sense, tonight and next week, what I'm planning to share with you guys is these are kind of like guiding principles for life. About a year ago, early in the semester, I preached out of Ephesians 5, 15 through 17, talking about do not live as unwise, but as wise. What's the wise thing to do? Really just thought about doing that again, because it's a really great rubric, it's a great lens to view things through. But tonight, I really just want to challenge you guys that if you want to know what to do, you want to know how to live, you want to know what's God want for me, I think generally, like, I'd like to know God's will for my life. Yeah, a lot of us would like to know God's will for our life. The prescription for that is right here in these two verses. And so this is what I want to challenge you with, guys, tonight, more than anything else, is to be intentional about saturating your life with God's Word. Because like what Jeremiah said, it's really easy to be busy and not have time for Jesus. It's even really easy to be busy doing things for Jesus, where you are, maybe you're out sharing the gospel, maybe you're on, you've got some service project, or you're really reaching out to your neighbors, or you're constantly serving other people, and you're kind of like the starving baker. You're always trying to give bread to other people, but you never take time to eat for yourself. And so tonight, that's my biggest challenge to you guys, is to have an intentional plan to spend time in God's Word. Okay? So we're going to get into that tonight. All right. So really, taking this kind of bit by bit, in view of God's mercies, therefore I urge you, in view of God's mercy, to offer your body as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. And so as I already said, those first 11 chapters, especially Romans 1 through 8, Romans 9 through 11 is kind of a side conversation that's relevant to the rest of the chapters. But especially Romans 1 through 8 gets through all that God has done for us. That we've been justified, that we've been forgiven, we've been adopted as sons and daughters, and all those incredible things. And so there's a response. There's really only one right response. And when you think about that, there's songs we sing, hymns like Count Your Many Blessings, name them one by one, count your many blessings, see what God has done. That when you pause, it's hard to pause. Even that way. It's the uncomfortable. We just go so fast. The pace of life. Man, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. I keep spitting on you. I don't know. That's why you got that real thick jacket. Good for you. Scoot over here. But the pace of life is so fast. In fact, that was something I'm going to share this with you guys later. But just this morning, I was reading Psalm 4, and in there, David writes, he says, in your anger, do not sin, and when you're on your bed, be silent, and consider your heart. I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but it's this idea, like, just lay in your bed and consider your ways. And yet, we're going so fast, we're so busy, that we often don't have time to reflect. We don't have time to reflect on God's Word. We don't have time to reflect on what God has done for us. And so maybe we can forget. We can forget quickly. And that's not a new problem. You can read in Exodus. You think, wow, if I walk through the Red Sea, walk between the walls of the water, I would never doubt God again. Wrong. It wasn't very long until they're like, oh, we're going to die. And then God delivers them again. Like, this sucks, we're out here. Or, oh, well, all we have is this, what is it, bread? We want some meat. And they're just constantly grumbling and complaining and doubting God. So you would have been the same. Because we're all the same. We would have done the same thing. So how quickly we forget what God has done. But everything that we do, guys, is a response to what God has done for us. Which is really awesome. Which is one of the, maybe it's the side effect of the fact that Christianity is different than everything else that's out there. Because everything else, any man-made religion is always about your performance, about how good you can do and how good you can be. And the gospel is all about how good Christ was, because you're not good and you can't be good. But He was good for you. And when you put your faith and trust in Him, you're adopted into God's family, holy and dearly loved completely. And so because of that, that's transformative. In fact, 1 John 4:9 says, we love because He first loved us. And so everything that we do ought to be a response to the love of God. There's only one right response to this. And He says, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. Now, this is imagery that was very common. It's very common in the Old Testament. It's very understood in Paul's day when he was writing. It wasn't unheard of. I mean, the temple sacrificial system still existed. Pagan religions offered sacrifices. We don't really do that I'm aware of. I guess if people still do that kind of stuff nowadays, they're doing it in some hidden location somewhere so they don't get arrested. I don't know. But it sounds kind of old and archaic. But the idea of a sacrifice was an animal who was it usually represented something else. In the Old Testament, it was offered on behalf of the people and their sin, but this animal would give, maybe have its taken. I don't think the animal had to say. But we'll go with that. The animal would give its life, right? It didn't even know what was going on. But the animal would die, would be placed on the altar, and then it would be burned. And that whole creature would be consumed. All of it would be consumed in kind of this image of giving it over to God. All right? Well, a living sacrifice is a little bit different. And God is not calling us to literally die and be burned on an altar. But the imagery of this animal's whole essence and being was completely given to God. That we do that with our lives. He says to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. And that's really a picture of our whole selves. That all of me is to be given to God as a living sacrifice. So I continue to live my life, but I live wholly for Him. Completely. Just like, imagine that. It's not like some of the animal was saved or some of the animal got to go over here and continue living. Like the whole animal was given to God. And a living sacrifice is this picture of my life being given wholly, W-H-O, wholly over to God. And maybe you've heard this before, but it's been said that a living sacrifice has a tendency to get back down off of the altar. And I think that's one reason why this is a day-by-day, sometimes even a moment-by-moment experience for us. For me, it's pretty simple. If I do not start my day off early in the morning, giving myself to God for that day, it ain't going to happen. Then I'm just kind of drifting that day. I might get lucky. There may be a few things would go right, but I'm not going to live fully and wholly, radically for God that day. And so I'm just going to tell you, I don't think there's any other way to do it. And that could be a 5-second prayer. It's really not about how you do it so much the fact that you do it and that you do it from your heart. That my desire is to be completely and wholly surrendered to God. And that doesn't take that long for me to say, God, I need your help. I want to live all for you today. Amen. Did anybody time that? It didn't take that long. I understand the importance of getting up and spending time in the Word every day. Sometimes when I get up first thing in the morning, sometimes there's crises. Sometimes the crisis is when you realize how many times you've hit the snooze button. And then you look in the mirror and there's another crisis. And so I don't always have time to spend in the Word first thing in the morning. I think that's the best way to start off your day. I think that's how Jesus did it. But sometimes that doesn't happen. But I really don't think there's any excuse not to start your day off by surrendering your day to the Lord. That only takes a few seconds. And that's really more about a heart attitude towards God. And then as soon as you have time, spend some time in the Word. Which I don't know if that is a problem for you guys or not. But I'll just get over here for a second. I'll go on the side tangent just for a second. I'm very much a systems guy. Like I kind of come up with a way of doing something. And then, I'm sure I mentioned this before, I've probably told this story before, but then there's been times when I leave my house, and like maybe I need to go to the post office. The post office is just like a block and a half that way. And I need to go to the post office, and I get in my car, and the next thing you know, I'm sitting at the BSU. And then I'm in the building, and I'm like, wait a minute, I was supposed to go to the post office. Because I'm just so used to doing that car drive from my house to here. And so sometimes I get kind of caught in a rut. I don't know if you guys do that or not. Some of you guys hate systems and you're so random and spontaneous. God love you. But for the rest of us, I just kind of have a way of doing things. And so sometimes it's hard for me to remember that oh man, I didn't have my quiet time this morning. But it's like, but the day's not over yet. I remember even what Max Burnett said to me one time. He's like, you can read the Bible more than once in a day. He's like, what? Why didn't I think of that? Now that you can spend time in the Word whenever you have time, but I think to start your day off, to offer yourself to God as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. He said, this is your spiritual act of worship. This is your reasonable act of worship. Some of your translations say this is your spiritual, reasonable act of service. And those words are all interrelated. This is a spiritual thing to do. It is a reasonable thing to do. The reason that it's translated as both service and worship is because so much of the worship in the Bible and in the Old Testament, this barrier between us, man, was service. In fact, I want to put it there, Hebrews 9:9. Hebrews 9:9 talks about how the sacrifices of the Old Testament couldn't cleanse the conscience of the worshiper. It doesn't say the person who offers the sacrifice. They were offering those sacrifices as worship. And it's fun to come here. I mentioned this last week. It's thoroughly enjoyable to sing praise songs with you guys. As an aside, I also was just thinking tonight how back at the beginning of the year, when we went to Life Impact and I about lost my voice, I was like, oh, it's nice to just be able to sing. It's a joyful noise. It's okay. I know it's not beautiful, but it's nice to have a voice. That song was talking about, how I can tell of your great salvation. It's like, yeah, that's actually a privilege. I've had that go away. I don't enjoy that very much, right? But it's great to come together and sing songs. But guys, worship is so much more than just singing. And what Paul is saying here, he says, you offer your body, when you offer yourself unto God as a sacrifice, you say, God, I'm going to be wholly given to you. That's worship. And maybe a different way to think about worship is that to worship something is to ascribe value, to ascribe worth. So maybe we would even call it worthship, which is actually the origin of that word, how it came to be. It's to ascribe worth. And when we praise God, we're talking about that He's worthy of worship. We're talking about how great He is. When we sing the praises of anything, maybe you were watching football last week and you saw the last play of the Vikings game. That was nuts. All right, we would say that play was praiseworthy. And so we talk about it. We praise the play. We praise those players. Except for the poor guy who missed the tackle. Man, and he's a rookie. Whew, that's going to be rough to shake that one off. Probably he will. Remember that for the rest of his life. With his fat wallet, if he doesn't waste his money. All right? He's been compensated. But there are lots of things, guys, that we praise. That we want to talk about. Did you see this? Did you hear that? Do you know this? And we're saying these things are worth our attention. These things are worth our conversation. In fact, these things are worth your attention. I want you to see this. And that happens all the time, right? You got some goofy, it's a panda doing a backflip, or it's a, I don't know, it's a cat that is so cute because he looks like he's so grumpy. Right? I saw that cat, the grumpy wherever cat. And you're like, look, because we think these things are praiseworthy. What is God worth? Especially in view of God's mercy. In view of what God has done for you. What is God worth to you? Because when the only reasonable answer is, God, you're worth all of me. You're worth my whole self. That's my worthship to you. You're worthy of all of me. He's worthy of more, but that's all I got. So I give you all I got. That's the logic behind a living sacrifice. Is, God, you're worthy. You deserve nothing less than all of me. And so Paul says that we offer our bodies a living sacrifice, holy. We were holy. You get it? That's the WHO, holy. Now we're holy, pleasing to God. And holy, H-O-L-Y, holy, first of all, to be holy literally means to be set apart. And it's, here, let me explain this way. Several years ago, some of you guys know Karen's gluten-free, and Jordan and Taylor are gluten-free, and Paul's gluten-free. Anybody else? Did I miss anyone? Is that everybody? All right, well, for a while, my kids were gluten-free. The only person in my house who was eating gluten was me. And, I only eat whatever gets cooked and put in front of me, so I was gluten-free too. Right? But we had 2 toasters in our house. And one toaster was labeled gluten-free. And they had one of those toasters at Life Impact as well. And I just thought, man, if I was gluten-free, I wouldn't touch that toaster. I don't know how many people are honoring that label. What does that mean? I don't know. I'm throwing my bagel in there. But in our house, it meant something. It meant that this toaster is set apart. That this toaster has one use. And it's for gluten-free only. And that's what the word holy means. It means that this thing is set apart for a special purpose. And so, for us to be holy, first of all, it means that we're set apart for God. For Him alone. For nothing else. For nothing less. For not common, ordinary use. In fact, Paul says that to the Corinthians. He says, I can't address you like spiritual people. You're just worldly people. You're living like ordinary men. Because they were quarreling and fighting and had all their problems. You're living like ordinary men. And that's not God's desire for any one of his children. It's for us to live a holy life, set apart for his purpose. Second, of course, holy also means to be set apart from sin. And that's one aspect of what it means when it says holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, that he is pure. That if you go back up just a little bit further in 1 John, it says God is light. In him there is no darkness at all. He is pure. He is holy. And so for us to be holy, we don't have any holiness of our own, but Christ makes us holy. And yet God also calls us that when we come to him, we have the intention of being holy. And if we're honest, I think that's probably not always true. Just like sometimes I'm not always really interested in being a living sacrifice. It's like I did that last week. Today I just kind of want to have some fun. I was holy yesterday. Can I be unholy today? No. Those things lead to death. Man, boy, we can talk about, we've been in Romans, right? I mean, you're going to offer yourself to righteousness, or you're going to offer yourself to sin. Are you going to submit to the Spirit, or are you going to submit to the flesh? It's one or the other. And only one of those brings life. Only one of those is pleasing to God. He says, so offer your body as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. Pleasing to God. Now, it's absolutely true that it's pleasing to God when we're set apart for him and when we're set apart from sin. But how do we know what all the things are that God wants us to do? How do we know what is pleasing to God? You probably read ahead of me, right? You know how we do that. I kind of gave that away. But Ephesians 5:15 and following, Paul writes to the church at Ephesus, he says, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. We're commanded to understand what God's will is. It shouldn't be some mysterious, crazy, unknowable thing. You know, this isn't National Treasure, where God's will is buried somewhere in this unreachable chasm with gold. And you got to find the right glasses, and you got to find the right key, and you got to get into the White House, and you got to steal the Declaration of Independence. No! It's not like that. And it's not this unsolvable mystery that we all sit around and we all feel stupid while Sherlock Holmes is the only one who can piece all the clues together. It's not that either. That God's will is knowable. God's will is revealed. God's will has been given to us. And it tells us in this passage how we get there. He says, therefore, brothers, if you have God's mercy, offer your body as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. And he goes on to say, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. Then you'll be able to test and prove what God's will is. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is. His good, pleasing, and perfect will. All right? So we're getting into here. How can we live as pleasing to God? Okay? Well, first of all, he says, do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world. Don't conform to the pattern of this world. Now, there's a complete change in direction here. He says we're going to stop conforming to the world, and instead we're going to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. So there's a complete 180 here. And the things we have to stop thinking and doing, as the scripture calls it, the pattern of this world. Now, there is a sinful way of life that is natural and normal in our world today. In fact, I was talking with Megan a little bit earlier. We were talking about American culture and what defines American culture. We talked about the American dream. The American dream is pretty selfish. Am I going to step on any toes here? Guys, the American dream is like get all you can. Whoever gets the most toys wins. Whoever has the most, what is that? Whoever dies with the most toys wins. I like the one that says whoever dies with the most toys still dies. That's like a biblical take on that. Okay? But the way of this world, guys, the pattern, it's a blueprint and it's a way of living life apart from God. What in 1 John chapter 2, John calls it he says, don't love the world or the things of the world. And when he's talking about it, he's not saying don't love the people of the world. I mean, right, because for God so loved the world. He's talking about the way of this world. He talks about the lust of the flesh and lust of the eyes and the pride of life. This sinful way that we all start out with. If it feels good, do it. You know, look out for number one. Live your best life now. Everything is okay as long as you don't get caught. Life is whatever you make of it. Be your own man. Be your own woman. You call the shots. It's all about me. That's the way of the world. And guys, what he says here, I find that I'm encouraged by this. Because he says, do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world. Because we've all been victim to it. We've all lived there. And so there's no, you don't need to be ashamed. You don't need to be embarrassed. If you come to discover, oh wow, there's parts of my life that are not pleasing to God. Welcome to the club. That's how we all start out, okay? Like sometimes we get trapped because we experience guilt or shame or whatever it might be, and then we hide and we're afraid, and we don't want to tell everybody about what's going on in our life. We can't break free. Okay, but we've all at one time, in fact, that's what Paul says in Ephesians 2:3. He says, all of us also lived among them. He's talking about the people who don't follow God. All of us also lived among them at one time, gratifying the desires of our sinful nature and following its desires and thoughts. Like the rest, we were by nature objects of wrath. That's how we all start out. We all start out as objects of wrath because of our sin. And until Christ comes and washes us, we're still under the wrath of God. Okay? So he says, don't conform any longer. So we don't need to hide it. We don't need to deny it. We've all been there, but it's not God's desire for us to stay there. It's God's desire that we stop. And we need to move forward. We need to turn and move forward. And so just a thought. How many guys, I want an honest show of hands, how many guys like to make to-do lists? All right. Some of you guys really like them, and some of you guys are like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And then some of you raise 2 hands. The big Vikings fan in the back. Thank you. She got pretty excited earlier. All right. Have you ever made a list of what you need to stop doing? Some of you have done that. That's good. Because God's saying there's a list of things that you need to stop doing. He says, don't conform any longer to the pattern of this world. In fact, maybe right now, if I'm going to take a drink. Okay? And while I do, I want you to think about what is something that maybe God's telling you right now. You can say it out loud, but just answer this question in your head. What is something that God's telling you, hey, that needs to stop? I feel like that meme of Kermit the Frog. So my business. Because guys, this is a part of repentance, that God desires us to turn away from that. So we need to no longer conform to the pattern of this world. There needs to be a willingness and a desire for change. All right, and as we do that, he then gives us the key. He says that we need to be transformed by the renewing of our minds, of our mind. We have a tendency, guys, we do, to be led by our emotions. What do I feel like? How do I feel? If I don't feel good, then things aren't good. If I don't feel good, I'm not good. Paul's not telling us to change our emotions. He's saying what needs to change is the way that we think, what's going on in our head. In fact, he doesn't even immediately say that we need to change our behavior. Because sometimes that's how we approach things. Maybe I'm reading Romans, and I just want to skip the first 11 chapters of Romans. It's all theology. I don't care. I just want to jump right to the meat, which is silly, if you call that meat. But just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. Like, I don't care about the first 3 chapters of Ephesians. Let's just jump to Ephesians 4. In fact, let's skip all that. Let's just read James. I like reading James because it just tells me what to do. I don't have to think. I'm not against James. In fact, I'm going to suggest that later. It might be a good place to start reading the Bible. But sometimes that's all. Just tell me what to do. Just tell me. I don't need to hear all the explanation. And so there's a lot of things that Christians do that they don't know why they do it. Now, there's a lot of things that Christians do they probably shouldn't even do. But their mind hasn't been transformed. They just picked up a habit somewhere. They saw somebody else do something and they don't understand. But guys, when our mind is transformed, when the way that we think changes, then our behavior will change. And then somewhere along the way, how you feel will change. Feelings always come last. It's just like if I were to say, if Andrew were to come to me, I'm just making this up, but if Andrew were to come to me and say, man, I don't really feel like loving my wife. I'd say, I don't care. You just love your wife until you finally feel like it. You do it anyway. And it works. I've been married for 20 years. There was one day when I didn't feel like loving my wife. So I did it anyway. There may have been more than one day. Nobody laughed at that because you're not married. You don't understand. Marriage is work. And it's good. It's worth it, that's for sure. All right. So to be transformed by renewing of your mind, that the truth needs to be what guides our lives. Not how we feel, not even what we see other people doing. We need to understand. And so this is how we change and this is how we grow. And then Paul says that as we're transformed by our thinking, because none of us is born into this world thinking the way God wants us to think. We've all got our own theologies. We've all got our own lenses that we view the world through in the way that we've decided, well, this is how I'm going to cope with problems. This is just how I'm going to deal with things. And we have to be transformed to God's way of thinking. And that comes through God's Word. That we're renewed by God's Word. And it's imperative, guys, that we are saturating our lives with the Word of God. And then he says that when you do that, you'll be able to test and prove God as well. I was reading a short little blurb from A.W. Tozer. It was in something else. I didn't go looking for Tozer. But he was talking about finding God's will. And he's talking about how, you know what? There's a whole lot of times you just don't even need to pray. Because the Bible tells you what to do. He says the Bible says to do it, don't you need to pray about it, you just need to do it. He said if the Bible tells you not to do it, you don't need to pray about that either. You just need to not do it. It's like, man, that's pretty good. I've definitely heard that before, where the Bible's very clear, like, hey, you know, Andrew, you need to forgive one of my good friends here, sitting in the front row. Andrew, you need to forgive Beth. It's like, well, I'll pray about it. You don't need to pray about it, you just need to do it. All right? And then, there's a whole lot of things, guys. No, it's on my MacBook. I don't have it in front of me. There's a whole lot of things that I was going to tell you, God doesn't care what you choose. It was Tozer said something to the effect of, he says, the shepherd is leading the sheep, but he doesn't really care which blade of grass they eat. I said, that's pretty good. Like, you know, I don't think he cares. I just don't think God's bothered too much. Should I drink the Coke or should I drink the Pepsi? You know, should I wear the blue jacket or the red jacket? And those are really simple. But there's a whole lot of things in life where I think, man, just seek God. Be in the Word of God. Have your mind transformed. And do what you want. Do what your sanctified spirit is leading you to do. That makes it be one comfortable. There's a lot of freedom in the will of God, I believe. But you won't know it. You'll live in discouragement and defeat if you're not in God's Word. To be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So let me give you guys a couple practical steps here, okay? I got 2 slides here with some practical steps to be in the Word. There's a college ministry resource. They've retweeted this over and over all week. They said, what's the best discipleship resource? They said, you probably already have it. It's the Bible. You know? So I was like, we're going to get together. What should we read? You should read the Bible. All right? I know there's 66 books in the Bible, and we can talk about which one you should pick. All right? And I'm all for, you know, David Platt or Francis Chan, or, you know, I appreciate Christian authors. I'm reading a book right now that's really helping me out. But that's not how I'm trying to hear from God. God's book is God's Word. God's Word is God's book. This is the book that is given to us. So the first thing is to read it. I like this picture. The dusty old Bible. It's kind of convicting. Read it for yourself. Read it. Okay? And I'm not a stickler on how much you got to read. But I just want to encourage you to spend time in God's Word. There's no substitute for it. Maybe you need to take really small bites. Although I'm going to tell you what, if you're only reading a verse a day, you need to take a little bit bigger bite than that. All right? But maybe you're going to read the Gospel of Mark. In like the first chapter of Mark, I don't know the exact number. There's like 8 sections. Like if you got a Bible that kind of breaks things up, there's like 8 different things that happen. Because Mark's like an action movie. It's going so fast, like you can't even keep up. It's made for young people. You know, there's lots of explosions, like a Michael Bay movie. You know, it's just really exciting. It's going to make a lot of money, okay? But it has a much better plot. So, sorry, I should have pulled somebody else in there. But maybe you only want to read one of those a day. That's okay. But spend time in the Word. But maybe some of you guys need to do something a little bit different. Have you ever sat and read the whole book of Job in one sitting? I know it's 40 whatever chapters. But if you only read a chapter of Job a day, you're still going to be reading it a month and a half from now, and you're not even going to remember what the first chapter was all about. It's pretty interesting to read all of Ezekiel, or one of the big books of the Bible. And yeah, oh no, so it's going to take you 2 hours, or I don't know, boo-hoo, so you can't binge watch Netflix for a little while. It'll be good for you. That's just an idea. Try something different. Maybe you need to spend more time in the Word. Maybe you need to read the Word more than once a day. Like I said, maybe you read in the morning and read again at night. Maybe you take your lunch break and you read the Word. There's lots of ways you can read it. Read it with someone else. Now, this is not a replacement for reading it yourself. This is a supplement. But it's pretty cool to read the Bible with somebody else. And really, you don't know what to do? Read it and then just say, hey, what'd you think? I mean, I don't know how you would, if Andrew and I are sitting down and we both got a copy of the Kansas City Star, and we're reading Sam Mellinger's copy, here's 5 ways to fix the Kansas City Chiefs, which that was his article today, right? I saw that. All right, so if we were reading that together, what would we do? After we put the paper down, we would talk about what we thought about it, if we agreed, if we disagreed, right? Like, these are not rocket science. Like, the Bible isn't some sort of unknowable thing. I mean, you guys know how to read. You know how to logically process things. So just do that with God's Word. Think about it. Talk about it. Wrestle with it. All right? I think another huge thing about the Bible is to have a plan. It can be a little intimidating because it's such a big book, because if you try to read it cover to cover, I mean, there's a reason that they have plans to read the Bible in a year. Right? Because it's a lot. And you have to read 3 chapters a day, every day, to read the whole Bible in a year. Maybe 3 chapters sounds like a lot to you. You miss a couple of days and now you're way behind. What am I going to do? But there are so many reading plans. I feel like not having a plan to read the Bible is kind of like not having a plan to exercise. The real reason you don't have an exercise plan is because you didn't try to find one. Because you can type exercise plan into Google. I'm sure you all have a Google. You know how to do that. And there's only a million options that pop up. And here's the thing about exercise plans. Pretty much all of them will work under one condition. We all know that is right. You have to do it. But it'll work. And so, man, Bible reading plans aren't hard to come by. I printed off 20 of these. I put them in there by the chocolate chip cookie bars. All right, this is one that I've not ever used this one specifically. But this is a read through the Bible in a year, 5 days a week. So you even get 2 days to miss. All right? But it's real simple. It folds up. It's beautiful. Stick it in your Bible. All right? There's a lot of reading plans. Personally, right now, I'm just trying to read 10 Psalms a week. I'm doing that with my Sunday school class. I'm also supposed to read a chapter of Mark every day with Karen. We gotta talk about that. She's been better than I have. So, have a plan. Have a plan. What's your plan? All right, where'd they go? Okay, and then have a plan for accountability. Like, who's helping you do this? Because the same thing with exercise. There's a friend, this guy, I'm going to mention, some of you guys know Adam Greeno. Who knows Greeno? You guys still remember him. I know he hasn't been here for a while, so you got to be older students to know Adam. But when he came to Northwest, he was just, he was skinnier than me. He was just, huh?
Jesus is my spotter.
Yeah. And he was a super, just regular old, I don't know, 150-pound guy or something. And now he's like a professional bodybuilder. He's huge. All right. And I know when he first started working out, he needed somebody to work out with. I don't think he needs anybody to work out with anymore. I think he's pretty motivated. I think if I was to go with him, if we were all to go with him and none of us showed up, he'd go anyway. But when you're first starting out, you need some encouragement. You need some accountability. You need some help. And then when you get established, you can do it by yourself. So who's going to help you? I also think it's important to have realistic expectations. You know, because some parts of the scripture are just easier to read than others. And so as much as you're like, I've never read Leviticus before, I really want to do that. That'd be good for you. Is that really what's best for you, though? Maybe you should read James as you first start out. Maybe you should read John. Maybe you should read Mark. Maybe you should read Galatians or Ephesians or Philippians or Colossians. Those are 4 of Paul's letters that are short, they're very doctrinal, they're also very practical. But have a plan. Have something realistic. And don't get too down on yourself if it doesn't go well right at first, okay? I got one more of these screens. Boom. All right. So then, when I'm reading the Word, and I know for some of you guys this is so fundamental, but are you in the Word? is the Word in you, because there's no substitute for this. Because guys, man, when the Word dwells in you richly, you have something incredibly valuable to give away. And when the Word of God does not dwell in you richly, you've got your best good advice. Maybe that's okay, I don't know. I'd rather hear what God has to say about that. When you give God's Word away, when God's Word is transforming your mind, it's fantastic, it's powerful. So the first goal here is to understand God's Word. When you're reading, try to understand it. What's going on? What's the context? Who's involved? What are they talking about? What's the main point? Romans 15:4 says, everything that was written in the past was written to teach us. It's there for us to learn from. So just try to understand what's going on. And so again, some passages are a little more challenging, some books are more challenging, so don't start there. And if you need some help picking a book, I would love to help you with that. But the second thing is to take some time to really think about God's Word. What are you reading? Psalm 119:99, it says, I have more insight than all my teachers, for I meditate on your statutes. That's pretty cool. And the psalmist is saying, I have spiritual teachers, but I have insight that they don't have, because I've just been thinking about God's Word and thinking about it. I've been, and biblical meditation, guys, maybe I need to clarify, like in our world today, kind of Eastern meditation is this sort of, make the noises and get in the pose and empty your mind. That's not biblical meditation. Biblical mind is not about emptying your mind. It's about filling your mind with God's Word. And so you want to fill your mind, you want to wrestle with it, you want to chew on it, you want to think about it. It's like when you get a love letter, and maybe not everybody's got a love letter. When Karen was in, after we got engaged, Karen went to Mexico to Tijuana for like 6 weeks. And we wrote letters back and forth. I've told you guys about this before. But anyway, I would get a letter from her and I'd read it. And then I'd read it again. And I'd read it again. And then I'd pick a couple paragraphs that I really liked and I'd really read those. And I'd think about it. I'm like, well, what does this mean? Why did she say it like that? You know what I'm talking about? Even if you've never gotten that, you can imagine what that's like. Like, this is God's Word to you. Read it like that, and you're going to get a lot out of the Word. And then the last thing is to apply it to your life. Like, we don't read it to learn more stuff. We learn it to be transformed, to be changed. And so ultimately what James 1:22 says, do not merely listen to the Word and so deceive yourselves, do what it says. Putting it into practice is the most important thing. How does this apply to me? And so this is my quiet time this morning. I don't know if you can see that very well or not. I didn't write it with the purpose of taking a picture, so it's not the prettiest handwriting that I could possibly do. But this is what I read this morning. Like I said, I was up in the library today because I didn't have time this morning, so I was up on the 3rd floor of the library. But I was reading Psalm 4, and it was so good. All right? And that's pretty hard to read, isn't it? Here you go. I like this. And you're not saying, when you are on your bed, search your hearts and be silent. And it's just there. Technology has made it so life never stops. Back then, there were many times when all you could do was think. Now self-reflection is very difficult. How can this become a part of my life? But that's Psalm 4. David says, hey, just lay in your bed and be silent. Search your heart. I'm laying on my bed looking at my phone. So it's pretty easy to read the Word of God. And that's it. That's it. That's one Psalm, Psalm 4. Spend some time in the Word this morning and pray through that and wrestling with God's Word in my life. And so tonight, that's my challenge to you, guys. And again, maybe you want one of these. I don't know. I put these in the back. But what is your plan to get into the Word? Maybe you need to read Ephesians every day for a month. There's 6 chapters in Ephesians, so if you read it every one chapter every day for a month, you'd read it about 5 times. All right? Think you might have a slight understanding of what's going on in Ephesians? What if you're crazy and you decide, I'm going to read it every day for a month? I'm going to read it 31 times or 28 times or whatever month you happen to find yourself in. Man, after a year, you did that with 12 books of the Bible. That'd be pretty good. I think sometimes, I don't know how you guys approach it, but I want to challenge you, have a plan to be in the Word, share it with somebody else. Just be faithful. Amen, guys, I'll tell you, God will do incredible things in your life. It's been amazing to me when I read something and how often God gives me an opportunity to share that with somebody else, how often a situation comes up where I can live that out and apply that to my life. So anyway, maybe we went a little bit longer tonight. We had a little bit of time to share as well. But guys, there's just no replacement for being in God's Word. And so I think after tonight, there's no reason not to have a plan. And maybe you just need to get on the Bible app. There's so many plans in the Bible app. My only caution to you, I really don't think the Bible app should be your Bible. Because boy, it just doesn't take very long for somebody to send you a Snapchat or a text pops up or you get a Facebook alert. What was I doing? I was reading the Bible. Like, get a real Bible. You probably have, if you don't have a real Bible, I will buy you a Bible. All right? Put your phone away. The world will go find for you to be gone for 30 minutes. Spend some time in God's Word. So let's pray, and the worship team's going to come. Actually, I don't know. Actually, I think I'm just going to end us in prayer tonight. I know we've been here for a long time. So, yeah. What's your plan? Do you have a plan? I hope you have a plan to get in God's Word. Think of a friend of yours. I'm going to do this a little bit. Sometimes I have you guys send a text. I just want you to do this instead. Think of one of your friends, and after we're done, ask them what their plan is. I hope somebody asks you. All right? And if you don't have a plan, come up with one. If you don't have a plan, grab one. If you don't have a plan, talk to me. There's just no excuse, man. You remember when last fall when the Voice of the Martyrs guy was here? And some of those people don't even have God's Word. We got copies and copies and copies that are collecting dust saying, read me. Let me pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for your Word. It really is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. It really does transform us. Your Word really is living and active. It is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness. I thank you, God, so much for the invention of the printing press. I thank you for just the proliferation of real high-quality English translations where we can read your Word and we can know that it's authentic and it's trustworthy. God, I even thank you for the testimony of manuscript evidence and all those things that we have that help us to know that this really is your Word. That it hasn't been changed 100 times throughout the ages like the telephone game, but we can trust it. We can know this is what was written. It was written for us, for our learning. So God, give us a hunger for your Word, give us faithfulness in your Word, and give us opportunities to sow your Word in the lives of others for your glory. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.